China, one of the world's oldest civilizations, was a great power in the past and is determined to become the global superpower in the coming decades.
For decades, the leadership of China has remained one of the most secretive power structures in the world. There are elections in many countries. There are parliaments and debates. But in China, real power rests in the hands of just a few men. At the very top is a group so powerful that their decisions shape the future of 1.4 billion people and influence economies across the entire planet. Every 5 years, the world gets a rare glimpse of them. 7 men walk onto a stage in Beijing. Their order matters. Their positions matter. Because the first man to appear is the most powerful person in China. In October 2022, that man was Xi Jinping, for the 3rd time. A historic moment that broke decades of political tradition and signaled something extraordinary. China may once again have a leader with power rivaling Mao Zedong. But Xi Jinping was not always powerful. In fact, as a teenager, the Chinese government destroyed his life. He was expelled from school, sent to the countryside, forced to work as a laborer. So how did a boy who once lived in a cave in rural China rise to become one of the most powerful leaders on earth? To understand that story, we have to go back almost a century. Before China became the global superpower we know today, the country was torn apart by war. In the early 20th century, China was divided between competing political forces. One side was the nationalist government, which ruled the Republic of China. The other was a rising revolutionary movement led by communist fighters under Mao Zedong. These communist forces built their own army, known as the Red Army. But by the 1930s, they were losing badly. Nationalist troops surrounded the communist strongholds, cutting off food supplies and preparing to destroy them. So the communists made a desperate decision. They would escape.
It's a decade-long push by Mao to solidify his control over the Communist Party and purge it of dissent.
In 1934, tens of thousands of soldiers and civilians began what would become one of the most legendary journeys in modern history. It was called the Long March. For an entire year, the Red Army marched thousands of miles across mountains, rivers, and battlefields. They were constantly attacked. Many died from hunger, disease, and exhaustion. Out of more than 80,000 people who began the march, only a small fraction survived. But those who survived became legends. And one of the most important figures who helped the communists survive during this time was a revolutionary leader named Xi Jinping. He would later become a powerful figure in the new communist government. He was also the father of Xi Jinping. In 1949, after years of war, Mao Zedong declared victory. The People's Republic of China was born. Mao became the unquestioned leader of the country. Under Mao, the Communist Party created a political structure that still governs China today. At the top of this structure is the Chinese Communist Party. Within the party sits a powerful group known as the Politburo, and inside that group is an even smaller inner circle called the Politburo Standing Committee. This is the true center of power in China, but Mao did not share power. Over time, he built a system where loyalty to him became the most important political rule. And in the 1960s, Mao launched one of the most chaotic periods in Chinese history, the Cultural Revolution. Millions of people were accused of being enemies of the revolution. Teachers were humiliated, officials were imprisoned, families were torn apart, and among those targeted was Xi Jinping's father. Xi Jinping was publicly denounced and imprisoned. His family lost everything, and his son, Xi Jinping, was suddenly labeled the child of a political enemy. At just 15 years old, Xi Jinping was forced to leave Beijing. Like millions of other young people during the Cultural Revolution, he was sent to the countryside. The goal was re-education through labor. Xi ended up in a small rural village. He lived in a cave dwelling. He carried heavy loads, worked in the fields, and endured the harsh realities of rural poverty. Many people believe this period shaped Xi's worldview. He experienced both the brutality of political power and the hardship of ordinary Chinese life. But instead of rejecting the Communist Party, Xi made a different decision. He chose to join it. Because in China's political system, the party is the path to power. After Mao's death in 1976, China began to change. A new leader, Deng Xiaoping, introduced economic reforms. China opened its economy. Trade expanded. Factories grew. The country began its rise toward becoming a global economic giant. During this time, Xi Jinping quietly built his political career. Instead of staying in Beijing, where competition was fierce, he moved to provincial regions. He worked in rural counties, then in coastal provinces, then in larger and more powerful political roles. Step by step, he climbed the political ladder. Unlike many ambitious politicians, Xi kept a low profile. He built alliances, gained support inside the party, and developed a reputation as a disciplined and loyal official. By 2007, he reached the inner circle of Chinese politics. He became a member of the Politburo Standing Committee. Just 5 years later, he would reach the very top. In 2012, Xi Jinping became the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party. That position made him the most powerful political figure in China.
President Xi Jinping
is one of the most powerful men in the world.
Soon after taking power, Xi launched a massive anti-corruption campaign. Officially, it was meant to clean up corruption. But it also removed many of his political rivals. Hundreds of powerful officials were investigated or arrested. Military leaders were replaced. Party officials were reshuffled. Gradually, Xi consolidated control over the Communist Party, the Chinese military, the government bureaucracy. By the end of his first decade in power, Xi Jinping had become the most dominant Chinese leader since Mao. 4 decades after Mao, China had an unwritten rule. Leaders would serve 2 terms and then step down. This prevented another dictatorship from emerging. But in 2018, Xi Jinping removed the presidential term limit. That decision shocked many observers. It meant Xi could potentially stay in power indefinitely. Then in 2022, at the 20th Communist Party Congress, Xi secured a 3rd term as China's leader. And the new Politburo Standing Committee was filled almost entirely with loyal allies. For the first time in decades, China's political system once again revolves around a single dominant figure.
Will China soon become the world's leading economy? The Chinese dragon versus the American eagle.
Under Xi Jinping, China has expanded its global influence dramatically. Its economy has grown to become the 2nd largest in the world. Its military spending has surged, and its political influence now reaches every continent. From the Belt and Road Initiative to investments in African infrastructure, China is reshaping global power. For Africa in particular, China has become one of the most important economic partners.
I like China. I love China. The biggest bank in the world is from China.
Chinese companies build roads, railways, ports, and power plants across the continent. But China's growing power also raises questions about the future of global leadership, because the decisions made by the small group of men in Beijing now affect billions of people around the world. Xi Jinping's story is one of the most remarkable political journeys in modern history, from the son of a revolutionary hero, to a teenage exile working in rural fields, to the most powerful leader in China. Today, Xi stands at the center of a country that is rapidly shaping the future of the world. And as China rises, the question is no longer whether it will influence global power. The real question is how far that influence will go, and how the rest of the world, including Africa, will respond. If you found this story important, make sure you like the video so more people can see Africa's progress. Subscribe to Voice of Africa and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video on the stories shaping the continent.